Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now today we're going to be talking about Jasmy because we actually just made a video a couple of days ago explaining one thing that had to happen for Jasmy to look like a pretty decent buy, at least in my opinion. So we actually have seen that happen, frankly, a little bit sooner than what I was expecting. So this is obviously really good news. We're going to go take a look into that today, check out just kind of how Jasmy's doing overall, a lot of that type of stuff. So anyway, let's go ahead, dive right in. We're going to start taking a look at crypto bubbles, and what we can see today is it is a more green than red market. So overall, you know, the market is green on the day. On the week though, we are still looking red. We are seeing a couple greens kind of peeking in here and there though, Jasmy obviously being one of them, up 17% on the week. So really nice. And keep in mind, we saw Jasmy run about 25 to 35% kind of bottom to top, and so this is essentially making up for all of the decreases that we'd seen over the past week, and in addition to, so really looking pretty nice over there. But overall, I just want to take a quick look at like some other things that we got going on. As we can see, you know, a lot of what we're seeing is like, why did this happen? We can see no recent updates from Jasmy through like their website, so nothing going on there. But we can see, if we do zoom in, we've got a couple of different things we're going to be taking a look at today on the chart. Obviously, you know, a really nice move to the upside here, but no real like particular reason as to why this could be. And so I want to talk a little bit more. Obviously, there's several different things that we could be seeing here. Obviously, you know, volume coming back a little bit, but we could see we had this descending wedge in the video last week. We did talk, or I guess earlier this week, we did talk about how we were sitting and kind of pushing towards the bottom of the Bollinger Bands here. We were sitting on a decent level of support, given that this kind of was the descending trend line. We did actually bounce really cleanly off this descending trend line, and we actually made a really strong run up. And if we zoom really close in here, we can see we had this strong run up. It looks like, so we did break and close through this ascending wedge line, and then what we can see is there's this little bit of a resistance here. We have two decently sized wicks. It looks like we may not have been able to get past that resistance. Obviously, this is the 3-cent resistance, so you know, tons of support here before we actually broke down. We have actually come back above it. This candle is still open, so there is the possibility that we put in potentially another wick. If we do put in another wick, then you know, maybe not the best of news overall, but we can see some pretty nice momentum to the upside here. So this is kind of exactly what we're looking to see. We can also see that there is this level of the upper Bollinger Band here, and we have a little bit of room to run before we kind of reach into something like this as well. So the chart kind of spread out pretty nicely here. I did also want to take a quick look at the Fibonacci's, because we can see the Fibonacci's actually like work pretty cleanly here on Jasmy. So you can see here, this is the 236 Fibonacci. Of course, you know, kind of top to bottom, we're assuming we have a bottom here. We've got this 236 Fibonacci kind of fitting fairly well here. The 382 Fibonacci obviously showing a decent level of both support and resistance. So, you know, this has been a pretty reliable one. Here we can also see at 0.5, you know, a pretty reliable point of both support and resistance as well. We get into 618. Not really too much going on. I guess there's a little bit of kind of fighting around here, but not super accurate overall. And then 786, same type of thing. Not, you know, this was all like a pretty quick movement, so there wasn't too much fighting, support, or resistance in either of these places. But then obviously if we go back to 1, this is around the 6-cent range where we did see that high. Now I did want to show you what we see if we look at the Fib extensions, because many of you have been looking for price targets, what we could be seeing, you know, kind of in the somewhat near future. We can see the 1618. So again, if we do break out above this, 8 cents I would say is a fairly likely proposition. After that, we have the 2618, which is just shy of 12 cents. 8 and 12 cents have been kind of those two numbers that I've been giving as far as like the short to medium term price targets. Again, this is just my opinion. You may have your own opinion or a different opinion or disagree with me entirely on what I'm seeing here, but you know, kind of the 8 and 12 cent range to me looks to be kind of the most likely. And then if we go up, we got the 3618 at 15 cents. Again, you know, another strong option, and then we go up to the 17 cents here. So one thing I did want to do is I want to zoom super far out and show us a little bit of like what we're seeing here, longer trend line. As we can see, we do have this trend line. Again, it's not perfect, you know, it's not kind of touching the tops exactly, but we can see though is that we are seeing higher highs over time. Not always seeing lower lows. I mean, maybe, yeah, I mean, kind of maybe see, or higher lows, excuse me. Maybe we're seeing higher lows, but if we are seeing higher lows, only just barely. I mean, this one is the higher low would be pretty significant, but I'm talking about between these two. If they were higher lows, very like only just slight. So, but if we were to see something like this, again, you know, depending on when we get there, you know, that we would kind of have to break through this upper trend line to hit that 8-cent range. Given we have been kind of somewhat following the 8-cent range, I do think this does kind of lead to the possibility that we probably would only get to about this 1618, and then we could potentially get rejected, like we kind of saw with this one. This one did break above the trend line, but again, only just barely, and then it came right back down. And so I think, you know, if we see something, maybe we see kind of a spike up to this 8-cent range, and then maybe we come back down, do, you know, something similar. I mean, seeing a chart like this, but going consistently, I'm all for, right? I mean, that's something that I think it looks very reliable. It looks very strong. We can see, you know, run to the upside, consolidation, settle, run to the upside, consolidation, settle, run to the upside, consolidation, settle, on and on and on. The main thing here is just kind of waiting, right? I mean, we could see here from this run to that run, It was about 6 months. Yeah, about 6 months. From this run to this run is about 3 months, right? So, definitely some time that you have to wait between these. And if we were to see a run right now, it would be only about 2 months roughly. So, I mean, there is the possibility that, maybe it takes us another month or so before we do hit this high. And if we were to see that, that would be about the beginning of March. We'd be about here on the ascending trend line. So definitely still some ways to kind of break over. If we've made it to like the end of March, then the break over the trend line to hit this 1618 fib extension. It looks pretty doable overall, I would say. So, maybe this even indicates that even though we have seen a break, we may need to be looking about 2 months out from now to see something like this. Again, obviously market structure can always be broken, and we can kind of see a departure from what we've seen in the past. And even if we were to kind of like take a little bit more aggressive, we're going to be kind of we're still going to be overestimating this one, but then we are underestimating this one because we obviously did not get up this high in this previous run. If we were to take something like that, by the end of March, we would actually be seeing this trend line crossing with this 1618 fib extension. So there is the possibility that, maybe the trend line is more like this. I think instead of looking for exact prices, it's more important to just kind of understand the market structure, what we're seeing. I mean, big picture here, higher highs, big picture here, higher lows. Again, maybe ever so slightly, but still higher lows overall. So, I mean, we are seeing that. We really haven't actually even seen volume come back like we were seeing between like March and June. Obviously, the volume was much, much higher back then. It's kind of calmed down a little bit. Obviously, we get our volume into fits and starts here and there, but overall, volume not really much of what it used to be on the Jasmy chart. So anyway, this is kind of what we're seeing from the technical analysis, at least in my opinion. I think overall, this looks pretty reasonable to me. So obviously kind of, short term, we got to figure out, first off, settle on this level of support, turn it back into a support, because we did actually have a decent level of, it was a pretty strong support at this range. So if we can kind of turn this back into a support, that's obviously really, really good news. From there, we're probably going to be looking to kind of break the overall trend structure, which is lower highs. We've seen kind of lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. And even still, we have put in a lower high from what we did see back here. So we would need to see kind of a break in trend structure. In my mind, that means we do need to break this 382 fib level. Hopefully we can do that. Still remains to be seen. Obviously, we are seeing a bunch of wicks in this area. So, not necessarily a guarantee, but we have seen this break and close out of this descending wedge, which is usually an indication of a trend reversal. What we can also see here on RSI is RSI has started to move further to the upside. It was starting, not in oversold, but in a pretty weak territory. Now we're just at a little bit of the stronger side of neutral. Nothing too crazy overall. So again, this kind of lends to the idea that if we could kind of break here and even just settle on this line, that's good, because we can give ourselves some time to maybe let the RSI kind of cool off a little bit. Not that it's particularly hot even at this point, but just something to kind of think about as we're looking for a break to the upside. Also, as well as letting Bollinger Bands start to tick up, because if we'll zoom in really, really close here, but we can see that the Bollinger Bands were kind of like, obviously trending fairly deeply down, now holding about steady, and we've started to just ever so slightly start to see them kind of tick back up. And so again, this is going to be giving us some room to make a possible continued run to the upside. So a lot of interesting things going on there. If you are interested in trading Jasmy, Bitcoin, Ethereum, anything like that, just feel free to use my link in the description below. I am still working with BTCC. They are doing that 10% bonus on first time deposits. Really, really good deal. Also, extra bonuses up to $10,055 per user. So they're throwing a whole bunch of money at you if you are interested in trading with them. Also, no VPN or KYC necessary. So like I said, if you are interested, just check the link in the description below. A lot of free money going on there. Now, moving on, I kind of want to take a look at what is the context of this movement within the wider crypto market. And so if we look at the fear and greed index, we can see we are sitting at 68, which is still greed. We've come back a little bit off of extreme greed. We could see for a point or two here that we were getting into extreme greed pretty consistently. And even here, we've gotten into higher greed, even extreme greed over even just the beginning of January. So things are cooling off a little bit. We haven't really made it back into neutral too much. I mean, if we zoom in closely, we've made it into neutral a handful of days. Actually, might have even just been this one. Now, if we zoom in here, we can see that we actually did hit neutral just one of the days, and I believe we actually broke up into extreme greed just one of the days. So pretty consistently sitting in greed kind of over the past, what is this, beginning of January, even through the new year, a whole bunch of greed going on. The last time we were in extreme greed was about mid-December. So we've had 2 days of extreme greed probably in about the past 2 months. Otherwise, things just kind of cooling off a little bit. We have not seen this come down. Obviously, we are seeing a trend to the downside. We aren't seeing this come down as much as what I would have expected. And now moving on, looking at the alt season index, we can see we're kind of creeping ever so slightly closer to alt season, but definitely not in an alt season right now so far. We obviously did see that little run at the end of November, beginning of December, where we saw alts make a run. And, of course, that was pretty clear that things were getting alt season-y. sony, I haven't really seen anything like that. Actually just been doing a whole bunch of kind of bouncing around between probably like the 40s to 60s. So, pretty neutral overall. And I think the market is indicative of that. Everything's kind of going up, everything's kind of going down, everything's kind of going sideways. Things are just kind of rotating in and out of like what is actually making the run at any given time. So, things looking pretty good there. Also, I did want to just give a quick update again on the news. We can see that the most recent post from Hara was on January 25th. This was an exchange listing for exchange.io. So, Jasmy continuing to get listed, a lot of that good type of stuff, but nothing really like too, no really like strong catalyst of what we're seeing as far as like why Jasmy could have made this move. So, potentially this is a little bit of some insider movement. I have also seen some things on Twitter, or X, excuse me, that people are saying, oh, there's a whole bunch of news, really, really good news coming. So maybe these are some insiders kind of making their moves prior to this news. Hard to say, right? I mean, it's really hard to know for sure. Anybody can post anything on X, so it's really hard to say for sure if this is real or if this is just people trying to engagement farm, or I don't know. There's a lot of weird things that people do in order to get attention and try to build a following, and they'll do it by any means necessary. So that's one thing where I always kind of listen to it, but I don't really take much stock in it, because of course this is crypto. Nothing that anybody says should really be relied on, because it's not financial advice, and you don't know who these people are, right? I mean, they could totally be lying to you and getting you to kind of buy up the price while they're dumping on you all the way up. So I would say just be very, very careful with that. But overall, I mean, I think Jasmy is looking to be in a pretty decent spot. I'm overall somewhat pleased with it. I think things are looking good. We are starting to see some of that, that volume and that volatility come back to Jasmy. As I mentioned just a couple days back when we made that last Jasmy video, Jasmy kind of just, kind of lumbers around a little bit, doesn't really do a whole lot, and then all of a sudden, bang, and it's off to the races. And so, hard to say for sure exactly what's going on right now, but we could potentially be kind of at the outset of seeing that again. So, like I said, hopefully you found the information in this video useful. If you did, please do give me a like and a subscribe, because it really, really does help me out. Also, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, thoughts, feelings, whatever, just drop those in the comment section below. I do try to read and respond to all of those, so if you have anything you want me to see, that'd be a great way to do so. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.